Welcome to Scatterplots. So the idea behind Scatterplots or a scatterplot is we want a visual summary or representation of the relationship between two quantitative variables. Recall quantitative variables are variables whose responses are numbers. In this video, we are just going to focus on essentially how to read scatter plots. We'll talk about how to interpret them and describe them in future videos. So how scatter plots work. Let's say we have two variables. So we have two variables, two quantitative variables. Maybe we have age and height. And let's do height in inches. When we go to collect data from each individual, then we will be collecting both age and height at the same time. So our data will come in pairs. Right? So the data comes in pairs. So for example, individual 1 might be age 10 or age 10 years, and their height might be, I don't know, 60 inches. And individual 2 will also be given a pair, and individual 3 will be given a pair. So it's not like we have just a list of ages and a list of heights. The ages and heights are paired together. While we have a pair of numbers, we have seen this if in algebra probably at some point as an ordered pair, and we can therefore represent it on a graph as a point. So since we have a pair of numbers, we can represent the individual as a point. This case would be 10, 60 on a coordinate grid. So coordinates, this is our X or our horizontal location. The second one will be our Y or our vertical location. So again, the 10 is our horizontal location. And the 60 is our vertical location. So I have an example where a scatter plot is already created, and our job will be to read it, and we can kind of review how the coordinate grid and ordered pairs work in the process. So our example, a study was run to determine the relationship between height and weight of adult residents in the United States. And the data is presented in a scatter plot below. So here's our scatter plot. Notice across the bottom, I started at 58. So this is 58 inches, 60 inches, etc. We're going up by twos. So this would be 64 inches, 66 inches, 68, 70, 72, etc. the reason I have this squiggle here, so this sort of squiggle break tells us that we're sort of skipping ahead. Instead of starting at 0, 2, 4, 6, doesn't make sense to talk about adults being 2 inches long, 10 inches long, 20 inches long, or in height. So that squiggle indicates sort of I'm skipping to a more reasonable starting value for our skip. Similarly, here I skip to 100 and then I'm going up by 25s. So this would be 175 pounds, 200 pounds, 225 pounds. My height is my horizontal location. Weight is my vertical location. So in reading this, height, I'll just make a comment here. So height is our horizontal location. Versus weight is our vertical location. So we're going to first go through and just circle some dots. So each dot is representing one individual. Our first job is to circle the dot that represents the tallest person in the study. So we want the person who has the largest height. So again, heights are our horizontal location. So the largest height should be the dot. So the tallest person, the largest height. Should essentially be the most right dot. Since height was horizontal location. So the dot that is furthest to the right, I have just circled in purple. That is height of 71 inches if we look at its location horizontally. And that is the farthest right dot. It is the largest height. So this is our A. For B, our job is to circle the dot that represents the person who weighs the least. So in this case, we are looking for weight is the vertical location if we want the smallest weight. Then we are looking for the lowest dot height-wise, or the lowest dot vertically. So the dot that is the shortest, the lowest is down here. And if we look at its vertical location, it looks to be at about 105 pounds. So this is our B. I'm going to go ahead and swap colors now. Next up, we want a pair of dots representing two people who weigh the same. So again, weight was our vertical. So we are looking for two people who have the same vertical location. So if we search through our dots for two that are at the exact same vertical location, this pair of dots right here, both of these dots appear to be right around 165 as its 165 pounds as its vertical location. And then next up, we want to circle a pair of dots representing two people who are the same height. Height was our horizontal location, so we want the same horizontal location. So our horizontal location, there's actually a couple possibilities here. These two dots are both located at the 64. We could also choose these two dots here. which are both located at 69. Or we could pick these two dots here, which are both located at 70. So these are all possibilities for two people who have the same height. So this is just sort of getting a general idea for how we can use the horizontal location and the vertical location of dots to find the smallest, the largest ones that match. Now determine the height and weight of each individual in the study. We are now going to take each of those dots and translate them. So traditionally, we do the horizontal location first. We usually call that X in our coordinate system. So we'll do our height in inches, and then we'll have it paired with a corresponding weight in pounds. So let's just work through the points left to right. That first point is the one that I circled and marked with a B. Its horizontal location is at 60. And its vertical location was at 105. Now we look for our next individual. So I've done this point here. Our next individual looks to be at 61 for its horizontal location and 125 for its vertical location. So we have 61, 125. Going to another point. The next one appears to be at 62 and at 165. And keep moving on. We have 2 points at 64. That first point at 64 looks to be at about 130. The next point looks to be at about 145. Then we skip to 66. That point at 66 inches in height appears to be around 135. Then we have 68. I realized I stopped marking off, so we did the point at 61, a point at 62, 2 points at 64, a point at 66. Next off, our point at 68 looks to me to be at about 140. Then we have 2 points at 69, 2 points at 70, and a point at 71. Our point at 2 points at 69, it appears to me that one is at 165 and the other one is at 180. Our first point at 70 appears to be at 175. And then we have one at 210. And then that point at 71 appears to be at 195. So this is reading through each of our points. I'm going to go ahead and just scroll down a little bit again so we can see our points. So for each point, we had a horizontal location and a vertical location. Again, from algebra, we typically call that horizontal location our X, our vertical location our Y. We have just been going through and identifying from the graph what each of those pairs of points would be. We can likewise go from our pairs of points to the graph. So if you've just collected data, you would need to take the pairs of points and create the graph. If you're presenting the data, you may just present it with the graph, and then we can read the points from the graph. So this is just the general idea of a scatter plot. In the next videos, we will look at sort of how we interpret them.